517 here at the Mighty 790. Eric Johnson taking you through the drive time news on a Monday afternoon. And I'm happy to welcome to the drive time news up in Grand Forks and fresh off the big UND hockey sweep of Denver over the weekend. House Minority Leader in the North Dakota House, Zach Ista. Zach, thanks for joining the drive time news.
Hey, good to be with you. It was a nice weekend up in Grand Forks. The Ralph was hopping on Saturday night when I was there, and it was good to put our rivals Denver in their place for a weekend series.
Yeah, UND hockey is one of those things where we have a handful of rivals to that squad, but Denver, just by sheer fact that they've both been so good for so long, is one of those ones that it feels extra special to sweep when you're in Grand Forks.
It sure did, and when Denver got a cheap shot in on Ben Strand, and I think the team and the arena rallied around the team, and it became personal, and you could see it, and the team wanted it, and we brought home the W.
Yeah, super fun. Well, I would spend the next half hour just talking UND hockey with you, Zach, but I think we should get down to a little bit of business here because we have a limited amount of time, and that is, you are an elected member of the North Dakota House and an elected Democrat. And we've got an election coming up in November, and there's some interesting things happening at the district level of North Dakota politics in this early election season. And that is, we've seen some elected members of both the House and Senate, like Shannon Roars-Jones and Jim Roars, decide not to seek re-election. We've seen representatives on the Republican side, like Mike Nathy, be censured by their own district. And we've seen the happenings of Representative Rios from Western North Dakota. All that to set up this question. From your perspective, what sort of opportunities does this open up for the opposition party?
Well, yeah, by last count, I think we're up to about a dozen or so of these traditional conservative, dare I say Reagan Republicans that have either, like you said, announced they're not running or not getting their party's nomination. And the simple reason is because the extremists in the NDGOP have the driver's seat. And that leaves these normal, fair-minded Republicans with a choice of either stepping aside or sacrificing their integrity to join with this crowd. And where I see opportunity here is this leaves voters in a bind. Where do you turn if you believe in good government, in democracy, in individual freedom, in transparency and compromise? It's not the GOP, not today's NDGOP, and I think the answer is North Dakota Democratic NPL. Because I know our incumbent lawmakers, the candidates that I've gotten to meet so far, the ones your listeners will get to meet as the cycle rolls out, these are serious people. They're dedicated. They're smart. They're pragmatic. I mean, we're talking about legislative races here, but this starts at the top of the Democratic ticket. We have Katrina Christensen running for the Senate, Trygve Hammer running for United States House of Representatives. These are good, decent, hard-working North Dakotans, and I think they're going to bring a message that will resonate with voters when they see that the alternative is this extreme Republican Party that is forcing some of its own best members to the sidelines.
Yeah, and I think that bears repeating is that these are the traditional center-right Republicans who are either saying, I can't handle this wing of the party anymore, or are having to circumvent that segment of their party to accomplish just regular governance. And it's interesting, but is it indicative of things happening in some of the traditional left-leaning districts in the state?
Well, what I've seen, amongst my Democratic friends and left of center friends in this state is there isn't some big pull to the left. There isn't some extreme segment of the North Dakota Democratic Party. We just want to do what's best for North Dakota. Nobody's pulling us in any direction. We don't have a leader like Trump whose ring we have to kiss just to get ahead. We just want to bring good government back to the state that lets the voters know how their tax dollars are being spent, make sure we're funding our schools, building and repairing our roads, the things that people care about when they go to work or school every day. It's just a different world for my Republican friends, and sometimes I feel for them because they got into public service for all the right reasons. We don't see eye to eye in every issue, but they didn't go to Bismarck to burn it down. But that's what's in fashion right now with a too loud segment of their own party. And I think in November, North Dakota voters are going to have a choice. Is that the direction we want to go? Do we want to get pulled further and further to these extremes? or do we want to find space in the middle for good ideas from both parties to come together for a little give and take, for a little bit of compromise? Because I think most voters would agree that's how we get the best solutions for our state.
And on that note, getting the best solutions, you are in a pretty significant minority out in the House in North Dakota, but there are still things to get done. As you look back on the previous session and look forward to the upcoming session, that's granted about a year away, what are some of those priorities that you're going to take from the conversations you had last session into the next session?
Well, there's a whole lot of things, and I think the number one issue on people's minds still is workforce. And we saw people like Representative Boucher out of North Fargo try to tackle that issue. He really pushed forward some good legislation on apprenticeships to try to find new pathways for people to get into the workforce. And we know what that also means, attracting new people to the state. I don't agree with Republican leaders who think the only solution to that is more and more income tax cuts. We need things that are going to attract families here. I think that's something like no-cost school lunches for everybody. We still know too many students go to school and can't afford it. We ought to take that bill off the table for every family. That's something we'll push for next session. And more we're seeing housing being an issue, affordable housing, available housing, any housing, too many unhoused and homeless people in the state. We need to make sure we are focusing on that going forward. And I hope maybe some of your listeners hear these priorities and think maybe this is the cycle that it's time for me to step forward, be that leader in the community I know I am, whether that's for county office, township office, school board, park board, city office, legislative. We need good folks to run. And let me tell you, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be the smartest kid in the class. Trust me, that's not who always gets elected to these positions. And I hear from too many people, well, I never thought of it or I've never been asked. So consider this your ask. This is me asking you, is this the year for you to step forward and serve your community in that capacity?
Yeah, and finally, as we're wrapping up here, Representative Ista, this is the time that those district meetings are taking place in front of the state conventions that'll happen in early April, and I think there is still time to reach out to your district that you live in and find out some more about the district politics and what some of the openings are.
Absolutely. If you find yourself interested in the Democratic message, demnpl.com/run-for-office, demnpl/run-for-office.
All right. Representative Ista, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll be reaching out again really soon.
All right.